Hey, it's David with the Chattanooga Roots Property Team. It's March 19th, 2026, coming to you with the market update. It's been a minute since we did one of these, and there's a lot going on. The market has gotten quite spicy in the last couple of weeks. I think everybody knows why. So I think one of the videos I did earlier, either this month or last month, I spoke about the rates hitting about 5.99. That lasted about 3 seconds, and now they're up to about 6.3 approximately. I think what's going on in the world is why that's happening. I don't know if this is going to be a lasting trend or a trend at all, or just a blip like a lot of things have been in the last couple years. So I don't know how much stock I put in making an adjustment around that as far as timing or anything along those lines if you want to buy or sell. I think by the time somebody did buy or sell, it could be quite different. I do know that compared to what it has been in the recent past at over 7%, it's still not bad. It's just not as good as it was for about 3 seconds. So I think there's still going to be these trends kind of where there's going to be these lower dips that if you're in the market at that moment, you might be able to take advantage of it, but trying to time that and wait for it, that's probably not going to be very fruitful. So the market overall, we're kind of entering into a balanced market, almost like a technical, full-blown balanced market. It is community to community, neighborhood to neighborhood. Some neighborhoods, it is still a seller's market. If you look on Signal, I've experienced this recently. It is a seller's market. We put in an offer with a client on a home that was off market, and by the next day we were competing against 2 other offers. So that still does happen. It just depends on where you are and what the product is. But overall, just in general, we're experiencing buyers and sellers have pretty equal leverage right now. And I'd say if I were to pick a trend in which way it's heading, and it does seem like this is becoming a trend, it does seem to be heading towards buyer's market. And that means sellers are going to be giving up more concessions in some areas, some communities, some neighborhoods, some streets. It really is very granular in Chattanooga. But in general, it looks like it's moving away from a seller's market, which has been for 4 or 5 years. And we're skipping right over a balanced market. We're in it now, but I don't know how long it's going to last, and we're kind of heading into a bit of a buyer's market. Not a severe one, but that's the way it seems to be trending. And there was some news today. I think new home sales in January, I think that's when they got these numbers from, even though they were put out today, were something on the order of down 17.5%, which was pretty massive. That was month over month. Year over year, they're down 11%. And home builders have started to soften their prices a little bit. And that matters to people that are in the resale market because the new home builders are kind of like the canary in the coal mine. If they keep prices up, they kind of keep everybody's prices up. And when they start to have to cut, then you're going to be competing against new product that may be priced under you for a similar demographic home. So it's something to pay attention to. And, I get this question all the time for sellers is, is now a good time to sell? Should I wait? And I don't think so. I think what we're experiencing is whatever peak home values were for your home or potentially was, that would have been last year or the year before or the year before if you should have chose to sell at that time. Home values kind of operate like a stock. There's some point in time where a stock hits an absolute peak, and if you didn't sell that stock on that day at that time, then it's going to be worth whatever it is on the moment you sell it on another day. Could be higher, could be lower, but that's just to say home values don't seem to be tracking higher right now in a dramatic fashion. They seem to be flattening or coming down a little bit. And that's not really the same thing as if you buy a house this year, is it going to be worth less next year? No, if you buy a house this year, even resale, probably next year it's going to be worth 3 to 4% more than this year. That's a normal gain. That's a historic norm. What we are saying is if you bought 4 or 5 years ago, there was a peak that home could have sold for when the market was much better in a much more seller's market. Your net would have probably been higher. Your overall outcome would have been better if you'd sold last year than this year. And I think that's going to hold true for next year. So if you sell next year, it's going to be more difficult. You're going to give more concessions, and your ultimate list price may actually be a little lower than it is this year. I don't think it's going to be like precipitous drop off where you've made a critical error if you don't list immediately. I just think that's the trend. I think that's what we're heading into. And if I'm speaking directly to sellers, what I've kind of got with a lot of my sellers and I'm trying to relay to them is in this market, it's more about mitigating downside risk than it is going for upside potential. And, I think in 2020 through 2023, you could go for the brass ring, and if you got it wrong, you'd change prices, and very few people even had to do that. Most everything went for whatever the price was. And, you did fine, even if you had to course correct. Now, if a seller has to course correct, the statistics around that are pretty significant. I mean, 20% of homes right now are selling for at or above what their asking price is, 99% or 100% or more of what they're asking in 14 days. So if that home had no price adjustments, which means they nailed the list price and they close, they're going to close and they're going to go under contract in 14 days and get 99 to 100% plus of what they were asking. The statistics say for the other 50% of people who do start having to adjust because they did not get the number correct out of the gate or the market wouldn't give it to them in the time that they needed, the statistics go from 14 days on market to a median of 100 days on market. And you go from getting 99 to 100% to getting 8 to 10% less. This is a median, so some people do better, some people do worse. It's just something to hold in mind as you think about, hey, how should I list this year and how much should I list for? Should I go for it or should I, try to be a little more strategic in the way I position the home? For buyers, it's actually a pretty good market for buyers. You're able to, it's pretty balanced or even buyer heavy in some areas. You can now typically get some off the purchase price or the list price rather, especially if it's got some days on market. You can usually get a little closing cost help and you can usually negotiate repairs a little more aggressively. Not in every situation. It is still, you'll go on day one and try to get a house that's hot. Everybody wants it. It's still going with multiples. It's going quick. It's going over. You do all kind of crazy things just to secure it. But if houses start to gather some days on market, you could find an opportunity to really do pretty well in that situation. So overall, we're leaning a balanced market. Some is a little seller. Some areas are seller market still, like Signal. Other areas have started to lean buyer. I don't know that I would wait till next year to try to figure out whether you want to sell. I think this year is actually probably going to be a better environment to sell in than next year. I don't have a crystal ball, but that seems to be the way things are trending in general. So if you've got any questions or concerns or want to sit down with Natalie and I and talk through any strategies, either on the buy side or the sell side, we'd love to talk to you. So Dave with the Chattanooga Roost Property Team, look forward to talking to you soon.